This is our presentation on a contested culture. So, right to life versus pro-choice. In 1973, Roe v. Wade was an extremely important case which ruled that women's rights to choose an abortion was constitutionally protected, and defenders of abortion were known as the pro-choice movement because they believed that a woman had rights to choose what to do with her body. And by the 1980s, abortion was the most commonly performed procedure, but opposition grew, creating the Right to Life movement, which was mainly supported by Catholics, Mormons, and evangelical Christians, and because they believed that life began at conception, but also some anti-abortion activists supported because of their priorities for more of like a traditional notion of family, and they kind of thought that abortion was an attack on the role of women as wives and mothers. Starting in the 70s, Congress and state legislatures banned the use of public funds to pay for abortion, which made them inaccessible to women in the lower class. And the Reagan and Bush administrations put restrictions on federal funding and prevented doctors in federally funded clinics to share any information on abortions to their patients. And extremists for the Right to Life movement started picketing, occupying, and even bombing abortion clinics, and there were some doctors who were murdered for performing abortions. Environmentalism. People began studying global warming from emissions, which was caused by burning of fossil fuels and the use of coal and oil, but many people ignored its impact of industrial waste on the environment. And in 1997, representatives of major industrial nations met in Japan to discuss how to reduce carbon emissions to slow or reverse global warming, and created a treaty, but Republicans in Congress prevented its ratification. And Bush later refused it, saying that it would place a lot of economic burden on the United States. And the treaty was ultimately considered a failure because the US and China did not end up signing.
In the past years leading up to the court ruling of Roe v. Wade, the timeline of the birth control movement made for the equal rights of women to men and an uprising in their rights, especially reproductive ones. Advocates like Margaret Sanger began pushing for access to birth control as a matter of women's health and freedom. In the year 1916, despite it being illegal at the time, the first birth control clinic opened by Margaret Sanger in Brooklyn, New York City. During the years the 1920s to the 1930s, birth control began to gain support. It gained support as a way to improve women's lives, especially for working-class women. In 1936, the U.S. Supreme Court allowed doctors to prescribe birth control for health reasons. This was considered a shift in legal perspective. In 1960, the first oral contraceptive pill was approved by the FDA. This was considered the pill and gave women highly effective and private means of contraception. In 1965, Griswold v. Connecticut Supreme Court case legalized birth control for married couples. This cited the right to privacy for women. And finally, in 1972, Eisenstadt v. Bayard gave the right to birth control as an extension to unmarried couples. Along with the 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote in the United States. It prevented states from denying voting rights based on gender. It marked a major victory in the women's suffrage movement as it set up further progress on women's issues, including reproductive rights. Women being able to vote led them to voice opinions about abortion rights, especially in the Supreme Court ruling Roe v. Wade. This legalized abortion nationwide, which recognized a woman's constitutional right to make decisions about their body, including the right to terminate a pregnancy. This decision was based on the right to privacy found in the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. Ultimately, this was influenced by the broader movement for women's equality, which was partially caused by successes like the 19th Amendment.
Its decision, Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization overturned Roe v. Wade, fundamentally changing the abortion rights in the U.S. The ruling stated that the right to abortion is not explicitly mentioned in the Constitution, which meant the power to regulate abortion returned to the individual states. Previously, Roe v. Wade had established abortion as a constitutional right, ensuring federal protection. With Dobbs, that protection was removed, allowing states to set their own abortion laws, leading to a patchwork of regulations across the country. The decision highlights the ongoing debate between the balance of power between the federal and state governments. Supporters argue it strengthens state sovereignty, allowing states to govern based on the will of the citizens. Critics, however, see it as a threat to individual right protections under the Constitution, raising concerns about what other rights could be re-examined in the future. Ultimately, Dobbs has reshaped legal, political, and social discussions about rights, government power, and constitutional interpretation, questions that continue to shape the country for years to come.